Hello, hello. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged. Automation Unplugged, as always, is brought to you by my day job over at One Firefly. Today is Wednesday, September 2nd, a little bit after 12:30 p.m. And as I always do, I'm going to jump over to Facebook and make sure that we're actually streaming. So bear with me here. Let me check this out. Let me refresh my Facebook. And there we go. Does look like we're live. Looks like I'm only a little pixelated. I think Jeff was right. Jeff and I were connecting before we went live here, and he's like, "Ron, you look like you're in a Legos movie, or you're all pixels." I was like, "Yeah, sometimes Facebook fixes that, and sometimes they don't." All right, cool. It does look like we are live. And what's going on here? Well, we have Cedia around the corner. I am super curious for those of you that are watching or listening. I'd love you to drop into the comments and tell me where you're coming to us from. I see Chris has already commented, coming to me from the UK. And also drop in the comments and let me know if you're going to be going to Cedia, the virtual trade show conference for our industry. I know that I'm, along with Tina, my head of HR here at One Firefly, I know she and I are going to be teaching an HR-related course at Cedia, and I'm excited to do that. And love to know if you guys are planning to go or attend, and if so, kind of what your thoughts are there. I think we'll get my guest's opinion as well. I did just hear an inbound email, so I want to make sure that I've officially closed my Outlook so I don't hear that dinging and ringing as we go through this. There we go. All right, so we are here for today, show number 135. Believe it or not, where it feels like just yesterday I was doing show 100 with Lee Travis. And today is show 135. Have the one and only Jeff Brewer, Vice President of Sales at Sonance and James Loudspeaker. That was a recent acquisition of Sonance. So let me go ahead and bring in Jeff, and we'll jump into the interview. Jeff, how are you, sir?
Hey, good afternoon, Ron. How are you?
I see you're coming to us from your office.
Live from the garage, that is, yes.
Live. All right, so you have to tell me more. So you're in the garage, and why have you been relegated to the garage?
Well, most of the time when you get in trouble, they say you're thrown out and put in the basement. Not in trouble, but Sonance and San Clemente is still shut down, so we're working from home. And I chose the garage because I'm surrounded by the Scooby snacks and supplies in the fridge behind me. And actually, the two kids and wife are all using Zoom in their own spaces. So this is the safest place to go.
Is the whole family right now Zooming?
Yeah. With the local gyms being shut down, my wife does Zoom classes online. And so that's in the hallway room behind me. Both of my sons are in college, and those schools are not back in session, so they're online. So they are Zoom classes in their each of their rooms. So I could tell you the biggest fight around the home here is bandwidth with the internet space, and so we've gotten really good at turning things off when you need to.
So I'm curious, with this whole change in lifestyle and demands on the home network, just personally, was your network already robust enough, or did you have to make some amendments or changes here, due to the new demands?
I definitely made some investments, which when mama's doing a workout online and things freeze up, it's pretty heated. So yes, I was a good dad and father and invested in better bandwidth for sure.
That's funny. I appreciate that. I feel so lucky, as you and I were commenting we'll get into it, but some of the neat decisions that Sonance made in 2019 kind of randomly, but luckily helped you here in 2020. And I personally made one of those lucky decisions in 2019. I decided for the first time in my life to invest in a real network for my house, like, big boy toys, real Cisco router, switch, and all that sort of stuff, battery backup. And little did I know that my wife, my son, and myself would all be Zooming or streaming at the same time. And I feel so fortunate. We already have some people, Jeff, saying hi. We've got Wes. He says, "Hey, Jeff, welcome to Automation Unplugged. He loves your garage. Nice garage."
Thank you.
And again, Chris, I'll just put Chris's comment here. He says, "Hey, Ron, hand wave from the UK." And then he actually answers my question about Cedia. He goes, "I'll wait for the return of the in-person expo." So that might be a trend. We'll see. And then Tomas from Panama, he goes, "Hello, good morning from Panama. Love the Sonance and James loudspeaker products." So there you go. You're getting some international love, Jeff.
Just drop the mic right now.
Drop the mic. Show's over. All right. So, Jeff, I know that you are well known and respected throughout our industry, but the chances there might be some people watching or listening that don't know you. And I always love to just learn about kind of how you landed here at Sonance. And then we'll talk about some Sonance stuff. But do you mind giving us your background and how you landed here?
Sure. Not at all. I, believe it or not, started out from college working for this company called Sears, if most or anybody can remember that.
I used to get the Sears catalog.
There you go. Within Sears, there was a part of that company that was doing research on companies to buy. And there were two teams, one that looked at Orchard Supply Hardware, which Sears later did buy, and another one that was looking at Best Buy, which was the team that I was connected to, and was looking at, is this a company that they should acquire? And a lot of people don't realize that Sears was really close to buying Best Buy a number of years ago. I was on that team and very connected to some of the research and work that was done. Later left Sears and had an opportunity to work for and with Steven Covey and teaching a lot of people talent related classes. And through that time, I remember just the experience I had with Best Buy and some of the research that Sears had done, and later afforded the opportunity to go to work there. A number of positions learning about the Best Buy and retail culture, and eventually the opportunity arose where I got to run the business side of Best Buy, which was Best Buy for Business. And it went from several $1 million to $1 billion in business within 4 or 5 years, and really had an opportunity to learn and to hire and to integrate a multi level business that gave me great opportunities. Best Buy went through some changes when its CEO had stepped down, and we were told we had to relocate into Minnesota. And that was a cold environment that my wife and I voted not to do. And so we had relocated ourselves to San Clemente, California, just because it was an environment that we wanted to be a part of. And my wife was from California. And that's when I had an opportunity to interview with the good folks today at Sonance. And I was lucky to land a position there with them.
So I have a number of questions, if you will, just about that background. So first of all, what was it like to be in the Steven Covey universe? Like, what were you doing there? Did you actually work with him? Or with
I did. I had to be within the organization. I had to learn, first of all, to be master certified to teach classes. Yes, you had to be certified by either Mr. Covey or some of his team. And I had the opportunity to teach classes like diversity or civil treatment. And one that I still use today, actually, with dealers is called adventures-based learning. And so I've probably done a dozen dealers in the AV industry where we go to a park And for a good 8 hours, we do some team building classes that are designed for the team to fail and to learn through that failure, and then designed to see how people can win. And so I have done some of those classes with dealers in New York, in Denver, and California. But it's something that I still take with me on the road from time to time.
I've heard rumors of these events. I've heard they're a lot of fun. Can you peel the layers? Like, what happens on an 8-hour day? What is an example of one of the tasks you give the team, and how do you? I mean, I'm curious. How do you moderate that?
Sure. So imagine in a park, two trees that are maybe 10 feet apart, and I tie a rope from one tree to the other at about a 4-foot level. And all of the members of the team, let's just say there's 15, are on one side. And in order to complete the task, they must have everybody get to the other side of that line, that fence line. I call it an electric line. They can't break the space that's underneath that rope or that line, and they can't touch the rope because that would cause everybody to go back for first aid. And so what the team has to do is to think about, how do we get everybody over without, disrupting that force field, that line, or touching the rope. And a lot of teams are in a hurry to get on to the next task. So they'll first look at, how do we cheat? How can we climb the tree? How do we walk around the tree? How do we just throw somebody over the tree? Who cares how they land? And it's pretty humorous. As the facilitator, naturally, I'm not going to let anybody get hurt. But a lot of teams will just come up with some quick ideas, and they'll start shuttling people over the rope, not thinking about the end at the beginning. And they may have two of the biggest, heaviest set people left, and they have no way possibly of getting them over. And the moment that team touches the rope or the fence, they all have to go back for first aid and start over again. So when one looks at this task, they may think, oh, this is 30 minutes. And it could turn out to be 3 hours, because fatigue sets in. People start going back. The team will become dysfunctional or break apart. And it's an interesting experience. And some teams will measure themselves on speed. How quick can we get over? How fast do we go? I did this for a team in Arizona. And they were like, hey, did we get over the quickest from any other team you've ever had? Because people are so driven around performance. But it also teaches one, and by the way, when we finish the task, whether they agree that they can't finish, because some teams can't, or they do succeed, we stop and we think about, how does this respond or relate back into the real world? When you have a job, or you have to install, or you have to design, how do we communicate? How do we get everybody over that line and successfully to the other side, to move on to whatever the next task or things are? So what I have found in my travels or teachings is that if those teams can come together and can plan and can talk through problems, or even when the job's done, have a recap meeting to speak about what we could do different or better next time, the outcomes are pretty good.
I look forward to having you moderate one of these sessions for One Firefly when it's socially appropriate to have you fly and to have my team fly. That
you just say when.
That sounds like so much fun. And I know some of my team are listening, and they're probably like, yeah, next team event, next team meeting, let's do it. So did you do the Steven Covey effort or work? Was that before or after Best Buy?
It was before, and then I did some during Best Buy, because they allowed me to do this within their internal leadership roles and such as well.
Okay. And what was it like at Best Buy to go from a small business to, $1 billion? If you're saying you went from $2 to $5 million to a $1 billion, that's an extraordinary growth rate that you were there to witness. What was that? That had to be fun and scary all in one.
It was, to go from maybe 100 employees to 1,500 within a 3 to 5 year period was amazing. We actually went from spaces on floors to floors in the headquartered building. Remembering at Best Buy, there are so many stores, so many locations, and so many people will come in and say, I need to buy 1,000 TVs. I need 1,000 computers for their business. And so what I was able to do was to put together a system where a store would put in a lead, and it would come to the business team, and the business team would fulfill or take care of, the product needs. What was unique was most of the time a store would want the business. They wouldn't want to give that up to anybody. I was able to recapture whatever sale that went through the dollars, or the credit for that sale would actually go to the store's P&L. And a store's P&L was a key facet of their labor. And if more sales flowed my way, but they came back to their P&L, they'd actually get more labor credits because of what my team was able to do. So it became I would say, a contagious environment of, man, we've got to give those leads to the business team because it really benefits us. And the growth was exponentially. It was just amazing.
That sounds like a perfect case of making sure you're designing the business process so that it's win-win.
Yeah.
The win-win-win.
And built to last. That's a big thing too, is you just can't put it in for a year. You've got to have vision of what's going to be 3 and 5 and so years out.
I lived when I was with Lutron in my early career. They actually moved me in 2001 to Minneapolis. And so I remember so much that Best Buy was Minneapolis. So it must have been, the corporate I think headquarters is in Minneapolis for Best Buy. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
it is. It's real close to the big mall, I can't
Mall of America.
American Mall of America. There you go. And there was a hotel near there that had a water park that was inside and outside. That's where I stayed mostly Monday through Fridays because I never lived there. I always commuted.
Yeah, I moved to Florida, and I'm still thawing out from my 3 years in Minneapolis.
The frozen tundra, and you probably learned to eat walleye everywhere in Minnesota too.
I learned why people drink in the winter, because it's the only way to keep yourself from freezing.
It's very true.
It was cold. It was so cold. So you joined Sonance, and did you join Sonance in the role that you are currently in as VP of sales, or how did you join? What was your responsibilities?
I did. I came on as the lead in sales on the domestic team, and naturally we've made acquisitions and added more product, and I would say more responsibility there. But I had the opportunity to partner with teams in the field, and also a different twist. I never had responsibilities with representatives, and having reps that they don't directly report to you. There's a lot of influencing behaviors that have to happen there.
That makes sense. And just you got to give Robert Keeler a shout out, the Minneapolis crew, Rob from CEDIA. And Rob, by the way, I just saw on Facebook that you and your son, what was it? You made it into the Wall Street Journal or Forbes. He and his son they on like a vacation piece about a great vacation he took with his son that was just published with photos and quotes. It was a beautiful story. But cool. Rob, you are one of the brave up there in the cold, frozen tundra. Just joking. I love all my friends in Wisconsin and Minnesota and North Dakota and all of those cold places. But I have no desire to live there again. So what does your day-to-day look like today, Jeff? Like, what do you do at Sonance? I know you do a lot and you have a lot of responsibilities, but like if you were describing it to someone in simple terms, what is that?
Well, I have I would say the privilege of leading a team of directors that cover kind of the north, south, east, west. I have a group of field coaches that are really talented individuals that can help with training or I would say troubleshooting or things around our sophisticated AMP projects and such, and a group of design folks that are there as well. And then the representatives that I mentioned to you, about 100 in headcount in the U.S. So my activities consist of staying real close to direct with dealers so I can understand what's happening in the business, but really leading and guiding those directors that I mentioned around getting things out of their way that slow us down, but also driving relationship sales, and on those relationships that are key to us. Recently, with the acquisition of James Loudspeaker, the tremendous privilege of finding representatives to represent that brand as well, just like Sonance, and to also get close to the teams that join the family, I would say, of Sonance, and that's one of the greatest privileges I've had. Is it's not just acquiring a product and technology, it's the addition of talent that is the most desirable thing that I think Sonance is always looking for is great people. And so my day consists of an awful lot of interactions and enabling and also helping people learn and grow as it relates to their customer base as well.
How are your reps doing? How are your reps and how are your dealers doing this? We're recording this here on September 2nd. I know our listeners and people watching are probably tired of hearing about COVID and all the good and the bad out there. Maybe they're not tired of hearing the good, but there isn't enough good in the news. So what's the status for you and for Sonance?
Yeah. One of the pillars that Sonance has, really three, but one of them is authentic partnerships. And we really believe that our team is your team. And our representatives, we are humbly super proud of. They're family members when it comes to me, because they carry the torch of the brands, both Sonance and James. And I really believe that they're closest to the customer. And if you have the best representatives representing your products and your brands, and they're closest to the customer, then you should stay either out of their way or enable them with the things that they need in order to be successful. And we've done some innovating with that authentic partnership with our representatives, and we really feel proud of the job that they're doing. And I also believe, as a manufacturer, if you pay them well, if you give them the opportunity to be successful, then they're going to put a lot of their time into your brands. And selfishly, if their line card is 20 items, and two of those items is Sonance and James, we hope we get a majority of that mind share, if that makes sense. And I think we seek to earn that.
How do you? I'm curious. This just gets into maybe a little bit of the weeds, but you mentioned it, so I'm gonna just take it a little further. You acquired James, or Sonance acquired James. When did that transaction fully take place?
Well, to be honest, I think it was 2.5 years of conversations that took place for quite some time. The acquisition and the final of things took place at I would say, November time period last year. And so a unique thing also was James was moving from California into Minden, Nevada. And so some of that transition needed to take place. A unique thing, too, is there were about 55 employees with James when they left Napa Valley. And when they arrived, there was 53 that made it to Minden, Nevada. So it speaks to the culture and the greatness of that company. And to have that kind of faith to move to Minden, and if you've ever been to Minden, there's not much out there. We were extremely lucky to be a part of such great talent, as it came on board. And one thing to know is we really believe that James had better mousetraps when it came to some product. Sonance
better than some of the Sonance products.
I have to tell you, absolutely. And
would you have said that before the transaction?
No way. No, honestly, they had fantastic products and better mousetrap with some of the small aperture that they did. So the reason and rhyme behind the acquisition just made so much sense, and more so now that we see the teams and the strength behind its people and what they're able to produce in speed and quick turnaround. It's amazing now what the Sonance family has at its arsenal through the James product lines.
No, that's awesome. I've got some people commenting here, and I'm just going to give Sean Shoots a shout out. Brewer.
Yeah.
And
he came from Best Buy for Business too.
Yeah, he's saying Best Buy business alum. So, Sean, appreciate you watching. And then Robert did post. He said Sonance equals a world-class organization, which I know I agree with, and many do. When you guys brought on James, how did you manage the rep relationships? Did you have cases where you had to? Well, just how did you think about that? Did you deal with the rep relationships they already had in place, or did they sell direct, or did your current Sonance reps pick up James? Like, how did you manage that?
A lot of really good questions in that ball.
I know.
So
You're
first
like,
of all,
Ron, really? You're going to go there? I don't know. I'm curious. How'd you think about it? How'd you
it's
tackle
okay.
that?
No, so first of all, I was partnered with interviewing every one of the existing James representatives, and I also saw that James did a lot of direct business, and that was a little different than how Sonance did business, meaning we didn't take anybody direct. We really believed in going through a representative, so that somebody in that local market was connected to the customer. Through the interviews of really a lot of talented representatives, we found out and decided that the last thing that we would need is to have a competing local rep selling James and a competing rep selling Sonance. And so it really behooved us to make sure that we coupled everybody together. So whoever we tapped on the shoulder to be the Sonance rep needed to be the James, and vice versa. And there were some tough decisions to be made there, because there were some competitors of Sonance already on the rep that had the James line. So you could understand some of the stuff that kept us up at night is the changes that we needed to make. At the end of the day, we made the decision that every Sonance rep or James rep needed to have both product lines, and that we weren't going to separate those because of the competition that it would drive. And so far, so good. Knock on wood. We feel like the decisions we made were absolutely right, and the connection to the James leadership team on those decisions has been an important thing that I've done throughout the way.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, in some cases you may have stuck with the Sonance rep and they picked up James, and in some cases you stuck with the James rep and they picked up Sonance. And that was, is that accurate, or?
Well, in most cases, we actually went with the Sonance rep picked up the James line, and that was through interviewing and partnerships. And actually, James' leadership played a big role into that as well. And you make decisions over time, and one of the things that I think Sonance had in its favor was a strong heritage with representatives, and the representatives that we thought were the best in that region, that area. And so there were some tough decisions that were made, but also remember how I mentioned to you some of that competition that rep may have had that was competing with Sonance. So at the end of the day, a majority of our Sonance reps picked up the James line.
Got it. How's business out there on the street? What are you seeing and hearing and feeling right now? September 2020. What's the word on the street?
Yeah. I will tell you that we're busy in a good way. When you think about March, April, May, and the slowdown that we all experienced, June, July, August has really been, on a nice sharp increase for us. Busy equates for me into sales are good. But we're also still on standby because a lot of states continuing to shut down and open back up. But having what I, again, humbly say are some of the best representatives in the industry, they have really done a hell of a job to figure out how do we virtually connect to dealers, or how do we get out and using the correct spacing and masks, et cetera, still continue to see those relationships that are near and dear, to our business as well. The other thing is the timing of the virus and when all these things hit is outdoor season. And so having the luxury of everybody being home and discovering that, gosh, it would be nice if we could entertain or have some fun in the backyard has really helped with our outdoor lines this year. And our representatives have done an admirable job of being able to set up and do demonstrations in one's backyard and not even being near, the client or the homeowner. So that's been very successful for us. And, we're still warm right now. And so we're looking at September being a really solid month for outdoor audio sales as well. I also believe that since so many folks have been home, they've discovered what they don't have or what they wish they could have. And so we're excited about the upcoming season, I would call it, of home theater and things that we and James do so well when it comes to inside audio as well.
We have a very serious question that's been posed to the channel. And so I'm going to have to go there. Well, first of all, Wim, our friend from Spain, he goes, interesting conversation on channel management choices. Wim represents a number of great lines and products in Europe. But he goes, very personal question. What is in both of those fridges behind you, booze or food?
And this is an important question. I chose to work out of the garage so I could also guard what's in those refrigerators, because I have two young boys that if you don't guard it, it's gone. The white one is frozen goods, so that's food. I don't freeze my booze. The silver one, if I were to open it, it has a mixture of lots of non-alcoholic beverages, but then there are some few choice beers and wines that are chilling as we speak.
There you go. Any choice beers or beverages that you want to give any particular shout out? Do you have a favorite beer or craft brew that is your go-to?
I hate to say my 21-year-old son probably has more designer beers in there than I do, but I go back to the Coors. When I lived in Denver, I like the Coors cold beer, so that's what I.
Coors cold beer.
Yeah.
All right, so Jeff, more seriously, you and your team. It sounds like all of your team, but maybe you could clarify, are working from home offices or from away outside of headquarters.
Yeah.
And how are you guys accommodating to that? And what does the future look like? If you pulled out your magic 8-ball and you asked it a question of when we go back to the office, what will that be like? Can you kind of just talk to, because a lot of people listening and watching are handling, these very different work environments. And I'm curious how you're approaching it.
Well, uniquely, our representatives are all out in the field. My team, the 4 directors that I mentioned, they live in the field. So, for example, the leader in the South lives in the South, and hence the North or the West. So we're already in the field. And so if we were to go back to the office, I'm the only one that would go back to the office, and I would miss dearly my refrigerators behind me for sure. But we're already there. And so
you might have to put a camera on those fridges just to, if there's motion that triggers it, you get a ding on your phone.
I just got to put a lock on them. I think that might help. So we're already out there. I think as a company, we made the decision that you need to be close to the customer. And so we're there. And so the only thing that I think changes is we're probably going to be flying more to markets. We're probably going to be more connected to training and CD events or other things like that once the doors start opening back up. But we've adopted to what we had to fairly quick, and also quickly putting together with our marketing teams and such, virtual content, things that we can do like we are right now online, whether it's a James introduction training or, some of the things around new invisible speakers we have coming around the corner, that kind of stuff.
All right. So you mentioned it. I didn't want to mention anything I wasn't supposed to mention, but you said it. So you guys have some new hot tech coming. I think it's pseudo known now in that I think you disclosed it to your reps. I have ears everywhere, so I've heard that you've disclosed something to your reps. What are you allowed to talk about?
I don't know what you're talking about. I will tell you that we've had hundreds, if not thousands, of dealers visit our facility in San Clemente, and I want to let each and every one know that we have completely redesigned and gutted and changed out that facility. The reason behind that is the new addition of James to the Sonance family. What a great opportunity we have to show and tell that. And again, that whole authentic partnership, we really aim to define that partnership through the ability of folks to come see us and visit us one day. That'll happen soon. to answer the question that you just brought up, Todd Ryan has been working for the last 2 years with team around our invisible speakers. There are a lot of folks and competitors out there who specialize in that product, and Sonance decided, you know what, we're going to be a leader in that technology. And I'm happy to announce that late this year, we will be shipping game-changing, industry-changing invisible speaker and invisible subwoofer products. And I say that because when we do demos of that product today, one struggles to tell whether it's an invisible product or it's an in-ceiling, in-speaker, in-ceiling, in-wall speaker. And so the depth and breadth of what we're going to be bringing out, we really think it's going to change the invisible industry, but it's also going to allow many dealers who just didn't think that technology was up to par to start to think, wow, this might be one heck of a good solution.
So I had gotten my hands on the video that you guys put on Vimeo, and I just asked Stephanie from my team to drop that into the comment section. So for those that are looking at the comments, whether you're listening, maybe you're listening to the podcast, go over to the Facebook page and find the video, episode 135, and you can look down in the comments and you can see the video. Jeff, what makes the technology revolutionary? So what is innovative about this invisible speaker tech? You know, invisible speakers as a type of speaker have been out for a long time. I mean, I don't know exactly how long, but I think I've seen them. I remember one of the earliest jokes someone pulled on me at CEDIA is they pointed out, I was fairly green, and they pointed at a wall and go, Ron, do you like the speakers? And I'm like, what speaker? It was a blank wall. And they go, the invisible speakers. And let's just say they had me going for a long time, and there actually were not any speakers there, but I was the dummy, like touching all over the wall to find the speakers. So I'm just admitting my ignorance there. But what makes y'all's new stuff super neat?
I think the teaser video I would ask everybody to take a look at that really does a good job with Todd Ryan, our chief engineer around all things audio. He will take the time to explain what he did and the approach that the team did, which was to separate the speaker and really make sure we design both parts to be the best that they can be. So the teaser video will help you with that. I think the other thing too is that design and passion that Sonance has around a heritage of innovation. We seek to I would say build things and technology that our culture of our company can give to the dealer to let them be innovative for their customers. And we're tired of not leading in that category, and that really drove us to this. A couple of things that you'll see on that sneak video, we have a 15-inch woofer that's invisible. We can now take this product and build, I would say, 5.1s, 5.2, 7.2s above your head, and this has not been heard of. The ability to take sound where it doesn't sound like this, and it now has the capability as being clear as you and I have, is what one will hear from this. And we're going to be out and about and very proud to let folks hear it before they buy it as well.
What you just did with your hands when you did that is what I think of when I think of an invisible speaker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you guys have found a way for it not to sound like that.
Absolutely. And what I say will be demonstrated in the field, and proof is in the pudding. And so we're really excited to empower those representatives that I mentioned to you earlier, and they're excited too. We actually had a virtual national sales meeting last week where we did all of the introductions and rollouts to that team, and I could tell you they can't wait to get out in the field and hit play.
And that stuff, what's it called? Is it just called the Sonance Invisible Speaker, or does it have a name, or how do you refer to it?
Yeah, it'll be an invisible speaker. And before we had an IS2 and IS4, now you'll see an IS6, an IS8, an IS10. And some of that nomenclature will tie into the size of the woofer and the drivers that are there. teaser video will do you well, and there'll be more to come. And we will be talking about that at Virtual CEDIA too. I know you brought that up earlier.
Yeah, well, let's talk about virtual CEDIA, virtual buying group stuff. Like, we're in a land now as an industry where we don't, it doesn't seem in 2020 get together in the same space and same time as each other. And it's so odd for me. I've been in this space for 20 years, and all I've ever known is, every few months flying to an industry event and seeing you and seeing all my friends and doing that for decades now. And we don't get to do that this year, and don't know if we'll be able to do that next year. How are you guys thinking about that? Kind of the love and the nurturing of those relationships, reps and dealers. How do we, Jeff, counsel us. How do we as an industry evolve to this new normal?
Well, I think we keep our eyes wide open. We don't limit what we think we're now limited with in this virtual world, so to speak. And I'll give you an example. Good friend of mine, Dennis Jakes from Mavericks, which is now a part of AVDG, has been an avid James dealer for a long time. And when the acquisition of James took place, and now it's a part of the Sonance family, we looked at, okay, how do we roll out training? How do we let everybody know all of the things that James can do? And again, my good friend Dennis, who was an avid James fan, we did a virtual training, kind of like what we're doing here, not training, but a virtual class where we went through all things James. And at the end of that training, Dennis said to me, he goes, gosh, I was doing 2 or 3 James products, but there's probably 7 or 8 more that I never even knew about, or I didn't know it could all be weatherized and used outdoors. And so everything that James, does was exposed to this virtual training, and he actually found opportunities for some of his customers that he didn't know existed before. I don't know if one can do that when you come out to meet and see somebody for a half an hour or an hour. And so what we actually found was that Dennis and team, and I think it was about 15 of his employees, comfortably sat down and they went through what we're doing here today, and we're able to ask questions and to be a lot more connected than has been in the past. And so our reaction as a company is we've got to adopt to this new way of doing business. We don't think it's just temporary. We think that there's some big benefits to what you and I are doing now virtually. And then how do we follow up when we're allowed to? How do we come out and do a demo? What can we do that might be different? The other thing I think we've done is we've been able to virtually connect with a dealer who's connecting to an architect or designer or maybe an end user. And now there's an authority in the room that's backing what they're selling, meaning this job was so important, Ron, that I actually brought the manufacturer here so they could also talk to you about what we plan on putting in your home. You couldn't do that before, in a live presence. Virtual happens. And I think a customer is able to make a more informed decision based on some of the things that we can do now virtually. So I think it's a very blue sky. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to do more business, but different.
Yeah, I concur. I think you need to embrace this virtual environment, getting comfortable behind a camera, getting comfortable interacting with, the people on the other side of that camera and being authentic. And so I'm completely on the same page as you. And I also agree. I don't think this is changing anytime soon. So it's adapt or die. And I don't like dying, so I prefer adapting. I want to close with this concept of company culture, and I want to hit it from a perspective. When I think of best in class company cultures, Sonance is for me personally, and I've been an observer of your company for many years, and I always put you guys on a pedestal in terms of really a strong, vibrant company culture, and I'd like to know, how do you think about that? How does your leadership team think about that? And if you're willing, I'd love you to transition that to the integrators or those that are listening, how they could perhaps frame the importance of company culture. In my opinion, it's one of the most important things a company can have and cultivate is the DNA of their company through their culture. What does that mean to Sonance?
Wow, that's a good 6-part answer coming your way. First of all, you have to have a world-class team. You have to have people that you surround yourself with that are passionate. They believe in what it is they do, and they love what it is they do. That's not easy to find. And sometimes as a leader, I have to cull through, some of the parts and pieces that don't make sense on the team. Turnover isn't always a good thing, but it should be the right thing when it happens. I will tell you that I've surrounded myself with just fantastic individuals who have a love and a passion for what they do. And it gives me the opportunity to do more of, I would say, coaching and more leader shaping, so that I can be somebody who either empowers or takes things off their plate that gets in the way. I've done a number of things over the years, and I've learned a lot of what not to do. But I personally do monthly one-on-ones with everybody on my team. And that one-on-one, they hold me accountable for. We schedule it and we talk about what's getting in your way. And I look at what I need to do to help there, whether it's a limitation in a budget or it's a sample that's needed. I ask my team to push back and create an environment where it's safe to do that. Talk about results. Winners keep score. And so, yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about the highs and the lows. And then what do we need to do different to move on? Nobody could have I would say predicted what happened with the virus. And so during, I would say, some very slow months, it gave me the opportunity to say, hey, you're working incredibly hard. You're doing incredibly uniquely different things, not only to keep our business moving, but to stay connected to the dealers who need us. Thank you. And I think a thank you goes a long way if it's genuine and it's connected to the outcome. And so I purposely make sure that I have an opportunity to really hear from my team monthly, and then I help guide on what we probably do different later. It's not sugar-coated. If somebody had a bad month or was off, I have an opportunity to understand, okay, why? What did we do? And if you understand or seek to solve that why first, I really believe that you can improve later because of what you've learned. And there are a number of things that leadership at Sonance has enabled me to do, which is the empowerment to run the business, but also my rhythms that I have back with my boss, Jason Sloan, or Ari Supran. I have an opportunity to have an audience and to push back if something's off or not right. And because of what they've created, it's very easy for me to, I would say, transcend that through my teams as well.
I just connected the dots and I realized Jason Sloan is your boss today in the org chart.
Yes,
he was my boss at Lutron.
Oh, we have this thing. If you're taller, you're in charge. So
clearly he must. Then Ari must stand on a soapbox or something to get above Jason, because that man's that's a tall man right there.
He's a caring and compassionate leader, and I will tell you, there's nobody more passionate about the brands than Jason and Ari for sure. And it's something that inspires me to come to work every day as well.
No, I love that. I'm going to give a few more shout outs here, Jeff, and then I'm going to ask people how they can get in touch with you. But Capono from Hawaii, he goes, I happen to know that he's from Hawaii. He goes, looking forward to checking out the new product. Aloha, guys. And then we have Wim's going to, I think, close us out here with a nice comment. He goes, Ari Supran, Rob Rowland, and I'm sure Jeff Brewer too have built a truly great team culture and companies like Sonance push us all forward to be better. I agree. Jeff, it's been a pleasure having you on Automation Unplugged. How can folks that are watching or listening that want to get in touch with you directly, what do you recommend?
I would go jeffb@sonance.com. That's the best way to find me. And if I don't get back to you, I'll hit you up there. that would be the spot. And I also would say, give me a call, 949-212-4704. Our team is your team. And even if it's not anything Sonance or James, and if it's leadership or some things that Ron talked about with me on the Covey classes, more than happy to help you and your team get better.
And I'm going to put it on the screen. Tell me if I did it right. Did I get that right? Jeff B at sonance.com.
You did.
All right. 5 points, Ron. I made my tech work for me, not against me. Jeff, it was a blast having you on, man. I know I've wanted to have you on the show for a long time, and our schedules finally aligned. So thank you for making that happen.
Hey, thank you, Ron. And thanks to all the fabulous folks that listened and were connected here on Facebook today. Thank you all.
All right, guys. So there you have it. The one and only Jeff Brewer. That was show number 135 of Automation Unplugged. We have a pretty packed schedule of guests now. I think we're booking out now into November. So definitely stay tuned. If you have not already done so, please go to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe. And if you feel so compelled, leave us a review that helps us in the algorithms with the podcast stuff. So definitely subscribe to Automation Unplugged. Just type that in and you'll see the icon show up and you can subscribe to the content. And on that note, thank you all for watching and listening. And I will see you next time. I'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.